Welcome to Around the Blockchain. Today, we're talking about the New York Stock Exchange outage and SEC making some enemies, payment wars, and SEC Bitcoin failures. It's going to be a great episode. We got some great guests, including some channels I might try to get on in the next few weeks. So let me know if, send them some messages. Say you want to see some Dizzy. We're going to start with Sin City Crypto, holding it down in Vegas. Just was at the book signing. Appreciate you showing up and showing some love. How are things going over there in the desert?
Oh man, having a blast. We were hanging out with Ben last night at the book signing. A lot of fun. Also, I'm ready to hit the club with my my dress attire today. Apparently,
Yeah,
everyone
you're
was,
dressed. You're quite
pre-show making
snazzy.
fun of me. So
Oh, no. If it was
thank you.
shinier, maybe I would. But I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Also, in
I
some
lost
button
the
ups.
top 2 buttons, so that's the reason
Hey,
there.
you're buff. It's lifting up the crypto market single handedly by yourself. And you know what? The buttons just burst off. Also in the button up, it is David. How are you doing today, David? I hear you on those spaces, man, dropping some good knowledge bombs, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me back on the show. I am
All right.
happy to be here. No, I'm
Yeah,
happy to be
love
here.
having you on. And also another bearded fellow. It is Kelly Kellam. Also hear him in all the spaces. He runs our BitLab Academy. Kelly, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent, man. I'm just happy to be back on here. The new look, you guys, the show, everything, you guys, it seems so upgraded. You're doing a great job. Just happy to be back.
BitLab Academy stepped it up. I guess me and BJ, mostly BJ, 90%, 99% BJ, and Steven, they had to step it up there. But let's talk a little SEC Bitcoin failures here. Maybe a little, I don't know, there on the bottom, but we're talking about Grayscale Bitcoin Trust specifically. And I wanted to lead with the CEO, Michael. Let me make sure I say his name right. Sonnenschein, Michael Sonnenschein. He was on, I believe, CNBC, and he was taking some shots at the SEC. Let's just roll this clip. It's very short. It's about
Q2 or
30,
Q3
40
of this
seconds.
year. But I think the frustrating thing for investors and certainly for the Grayscale team is that we're actually a business that was born in the U.S., made use of existing U.S. regulatory frameworks to bring crypto to investors in a safe and compliant way. And actually, the approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF doesn't require new legislation being passed. In fact, it fits into existing regulatory frameworks. And I think as we're meeting with both houses yesterday and today, what we're really hearing from folks is that a lot of them share in the belief that had the SEC already approved a spot Bitcoin ETF, allowed GBTC to convert to an ETF already, that a lot of the recent investor harm we've seen in crypto would have been prevented. A lot of these investors would not have gone to offshore exchanges and gotten caught up in some of the businesses that are not regulated by the U.S. the way that Grayscale is.
All right. I tend to agree with everything that I'm hearing there. Now, David, Grayscale was known, especially a year and a half ago, they were known as being one of the more friendly protocols that's talking to government officials, being cozy with the regulators. Clearly, they did want to get approved for an ETF, in their words, to help protect investors. I'm surprised to see him taking shots at the SEC here. The SEC seems to be making more and more enemies every single day. Why is that? And why does it seem to be their agenda?
I honestly, I don't even have the answer to that. It's just, this is just going to be an opinion. They're going after everybody. There's no clarity. You have Grayscale, who probably have met with them multiple times, can't get clarity themselves. Will probably turn into another Ripple case where they'll attack. I'm telling you, I am so confused on how the SEC goes about doing business. I really don't understand it. Even Hester was giving a speech yesterday where she said, we invite people in, we tell crypto projects to come in, and once they come in, we take down their information, put it into our algorithms, and then send back a court case to them. We need more clarity, or like he said, everybody's going to go overseas to go ahead and do business.
Yeah, I know I certainly have some crypto on offshore exchanges for sure, and it's not by choice, it's by necessity. Now, Sin City Crypto, you kind of brought up a good idea or a good thought that potentially they're trying to set up maybe another major legal battle here. Do you, are you getting whispers or the faint aroma of a Ripple 2.0 here with the SEC going after Grayscale?
Perhaps another lawsuit is coming. I wouldn't consider it a Ripple 2.0. I feel like the SEC has been targeting exchanges as of lately. Of course, what has happened with FTX. I think that they're trying to focus their time and energy into what they call issuing of, operating an exchange that violates SEC regulations. They did have the settlement that they had a couple days ago. And in that regards, they didn't go after the securities that they didn't go after the securities being sold and bought. They just went after that was what Nexo was settled for 45 million. They went after them for the interest bearing accounts. Let's not forget that Grayscale is actually in a lawsuit right now with the SEC. And so when they denied their last ETF, which is what they're talking about there, when they denied their ETF, they immediately filed a lawsuit. They already said they were going to before that even came to be. And then the whole reason that Gary Gensler has denied the ETF applications is that he's saying that Bitcoin volume is fake and full of lots of manipulation, which you know what I don't think is too far from the truth when it comes from the exchanges. And we saw with FTX the fake wash trading and the printing of tokens, even Bitcoin on their own exchanges. So it's just a weird situation where we're at now. Will the ETF fix what's wrong in crypto? Probably not, but it will take some people away from exchanges that have no regulation and at least put that market into a stock exchange where there is a little bit more transparency than on an exchange. So.
Yeah, unless it's a Citadel, of course. Then then there's market makers and a lot of hidden movement with those. But yeah, I definitely agree. They don't want to be exposed to what's really going on behind the scenes. Now, Kelly, Grayscale, it seems like they're cozying up to some anti-Gary politicians here. Maybe they're trying to think of the long-term strategy here. But I want to talk about there's kind of two distinctions. Rob brought up that Grayscale actually is suing SEC. But it's a little bit different than the Ripple situation because there you have the SEC going after Ripple. Here you have Grayscale going after the SEC. Do you think that changes the dynamics or the win percentage here? Is there a little bit of a home court advantage now that Grayscale is actually the one saying, "Hey, you're the one in the wrong"?
Well, I think that's a great question, and I think unfortunately this has kind of turned into like a bit of like a Game of Thrones sort of episode with what's going on with the SEC, the CFTC, the Gary Gensler. I was talking with my mom the other day, and she's way more on the she's very fiscally conservative, thinks that crypto is, she thinks that crypto is a problem because FTX failed. So the reason I highlight that is because FTX, Grayscale, all these things, Gary and the government, I think, are actually working to slowly, truly give supportive regulation and supportive sort of clarity on what's going on because they're sort of banking. This is my opinion, of course. They're sort of banking on this sort of natural disinformation campaign and misunderstanding, and allowing some of these bad actors to really flourish. So when they fail, they can point at it like it's crypto, and they don't realize the fundamentals of all this. Bitcoin's never had better fundamental adoption, but better fundamental growth. So I think the Grayscale is actually doing a service to themselves by trying to approach this on a more legal front by having that lawsuit while also trying to cozy up to making those tactful alliances. And I think we just need to be patient with this and drive, as each individual that's participating in crypto, drive it forward by spreading the information, coming to streams like this, talking with their families, using it, showing the use cases of it. And I think that's all we can do right now, and let Grayscale and the government to actually hopefully allow some encouraging and growth-based sort of regulation.
I had to do the same thing. I had to explain to my girlfriend's dad, scam, bankman, fraud does not equal crypto. He was, doing the same thing, trying to conflate. Now, David, quick question. Have you watched Game of Thrones?
I love Game of Thrones.
You love
If you
Game
don't
of
watch Game of
Thrones?
Thrones, unfollow me immediately.
Yeah. You know what? Same. What character from Game of Thrones is Gary Gensler?
Oh my god,
It's
Ramsey.
a tough one. Oh, Ramsey. That's actually a really good.
Oh.
That's a good answer. All right. You know, I threw you on the spot, and then you knocked it out of the park there.
Can I use the
Can I get
Schmeagol
where's the
from Lord
point?
of the Rings?
All right. We got
Schmeagol, there you
Smeagol
go.
from Lord of the Rings. Kelly, you know, feel
Yeah.
free. Lord of the Rings. You know,
L-
Harry
Gollum.
Potter, even.
Yeah.
Okay. What Game of Thrones
My
character is Gensler to
preciouses.
you? Ramsey's hard to beat.
Ah. The dragon, man.
The
Always just
dragon. All
causing
right. You know what? The
causing
ice
de- ca-
one.
causing destruction. Yeah. The
Yeah.
the Nightwalkers.
There's,
You know
I
who's
see
a
some
good one?
similarities. Go ahead.
Who is that guy? Oh my god. Jesus Christ, what is his name?
White Walker. That's what I meant.
I'll give you one. Here's
forgot his name.
DZ's choice. Now, spoiler alert, cover your ears if you plan on watching Game of Thrones. Hold the door, because that's what he does to crypto. All right, let's move on now. Talk about the payment wars here. Big banks are trying to get in on what they're seeing, all that money that Apple Pay has been generating lately. Let me just throw out these banks here. JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Capital One, PNC, US Bank Corp, and unfortunately, a bank that I use, Truist Bank, is also as part of this program. The banks that had teamed up for Zell, they want to take it one step further, and then instead of a peer-to-peer payment system, they want to take over what you see Apple Pay everywhere, more like a convenience store, a grocery store, those types of things. And they want to make a wallet in collaboration with Early Warning Services. This is the company that runs Zell. And the wallet is an attempt for them to take control over all the purchases that are being done online, especially when you see like a Wi-Fi hotspot, you turn the iPad, they want to get that money. They want to integrate that. And PayPal, just for reference here, I can only get the data for 2021. Their total payment volume was $1.25 trillion with a T. That's a lot of commas there. Now, Sin City Crypto, do you think that this new electronic wallet, is this going to be the death of a Zell integration into the future apps? Do you think they're just going to go full blown, everybody has a wallet similar to Apple Pay, I guess?
I think Zell right now is the AOL instant messenger of the early days.
Grasping at
Everyone's using
straws.
Zell. It's like the go-to kind of messaging service, which later on got replaced by email, obviously text messages, WhatsApp, and a lot of the other chat services. And so I think Zell is the first generation of moving money in the traditional way. And I think that what we're seeing now is the banks getting together to come up with something that may or may not even have blockchain in it. And so I don't know what that'll end up looking like. Will it be CBDCs moving around? Will it be USDC and Tether? I don't know. But
All right. Well, I think that's an interesting point you're bringing up. Now, David, do you think that this digital wallet, is it eventually going to expand into, EVM with possible CBDC usage? And second question, could you possibly see Bitcoin being integrated into this thing? You're muted. You're muted. That was big money. That's Venmo. Venmo coming for you. Still, hear anything on your
Cannot
end?
hear you.
No. I'll tell you what. We'll come to you. Come around if you interject. We do know that it works. Kelly, I'll ask you the same question. What are the odds you see CBDCs on this thing? What are the odds we're going to see Bitcoin on this thing?
Well, I think CBDCs surely as those come out. I think going back to the statements that Jamie Dimon made a couple weeks ago is this idea that Bitcoin is a pet rock. I think really what it comes down to is that not that he doesn't believe in Bitcoin. The problem with this and like thinking about what's going on with them sort of trying to integrate a wallets like sort of transactability to compete with PayPal and with Apple. I think it really just I'd be more worried about what's going to happen with Visa and MasterCard because that's going to create a massive sort of hole in the market there But will they integrate crypto? I think they will, but I don't think they're going to integrate stuff that they're not going to be able to control and censor, which I think is kind of ridiculous. So I at that level, I just hate Jamie Dimon.
You're good, David. You're good. All right, David. Let me ask you this question. Thank you, drummer man here. Many are speculating, potentially even myself here, that USDC could become the de facto stablecoin for a CBDC. I'm not saying it's a sure thing, but definitely a lot of people are speculating on this. Do you think that those big banks that I mentioned, do you think that they also think the same?
Of course they do. Like nobody talks about the pilot program that has been going and riding on. The 12-month, what was it? The 12-week pilot program, which has some of the biggest banks participating in it with the New York Fed. So, like, why don't we mention Wells Fargo and Citibank? That they will. They are not going to try to integrate Bitcoin. They are going to make sure that they can control everything. The banks want to be in full control. They will set up the system to be that, and they will bring in major players like these politicians, and they will pay them off to make sure that they get their way. Main Street doesn't win. It's always Wall Street that wins.
David, is there ever a world where, well, in 1 second, Kelly, David, is there ever a world where Lightning Network gets adoption here? Then, I don't want to say they're forced to, but the consumer demand is so great that they capitulate?
Maybe. I can give that a maybe, but the chance of that is like I give it 5%. Like they want control. Like at the end of the day, if they don't have control, then they don't make money. They need to make money, and in order for them to make money, they need to have us just like in the centralized world where we were going to work 9 to 5, and we just knew enough to be good enough and not to know enough to go ahead and gain our opportunities to be successful. I'm telling you, man.
Ain't nobody using Lightning Network.
Yeah. And then you muted right there at the end, David, and it happened to coincide right when you hit your hand down. I don't know what that was. Kelly, you did want to add something there, I think.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I think that there is an inevitability, especially as our worlds become more digital, that this was going to sort of move this direction. However, I do want to point out, with the massive growth and adoption that's already occurred within Bitcoin and the crypto ecosystem, this is without a doubt put an incredible amount of stress on the traditional finance industry, especially big banks, the big banking conglomerates, to try to figure out as quick as they can how not to be completely displaced. And I think this goes back to your first question about what was going on with Grayscale and Gary Gensler and the lack of clarity with SEC. We look back at what's going on, what happened in 2008, which was kind of the birth of Bitcoin, and all that stuff was supported by the CFTC and the SEC with these bad home loans and repackaged trash to make it look good. And so the question is now that crypto has moved so far ahead, banking's trying to catch up, but they're trying to package it and saying it's the same thing when it's, one of these things, it looks nothing like the other. They're entirely different things. So we need to be careful and make sure that we still have the ability to interact and utilize and grow the crypto, regardless of what happens with the banking wallets and Zell and all this nonsense.
Sin City question. Last
all
question.
I know is
on
banks
this.
are not going to use. Banks aren't going to use Lightning Network, man. I'm just saying that thing is not. It's cute. It's
Jack Mall
Max's
was very convincing.
Answer to
Jack Mall's very convincing. However,
yeah, it's Bitcoin's Max's answers to the hey, you can't use it on the regular because transactions and throughputs just can't handle any kind of massive amount of buying. And it's what you shaking your head there for, David? You believe? Are you pro Lightning Network?
Oh, you're
David
still muted.
censored himself.
You're muted.
Yeah, it's the Lightning Network is trying to shut him down. Oh my God! I know he's
Lightning Network is incredibly fast.
I heard actually I heard him for a minute. I think he said he loves Lightning Network. It is his go-to service.
That's how he pays all his bills. And those who are wondering, we're talking about Lightning Network. We're talking about Bitcoin isn't fast enough. David, go to you in 1 second. But it takes Bitcoin. A Bitcoin block is 10 minutes, so it takes 10 minutes for all the transactions to be, essentially verified for sure. And so you can envision a world where Starbucks, everyone's sitting there for 10 minutes and they read out like 40 names. All right, all your Bitcoin transactions went through. Lightning Network solves that issue.
I'm surprised nobody brought up what this company even does. The early warning system or whatever.
Very sketchy.
That they run in the background. So they run in the background for a lot of these banks. And so if you aren't really
they're the owners of
KYC
Zell,
properly, or
Yeah.
if you, and so there's that company in itself. I mean, if you look away from the Zell platform, they they have a lot of power, put it this way, when it comes to the banking system. They're the ones that give your
Yeah, and it looks like lost Rob there too. Are we speaking out against the big banks a little too hard today? This is I don't want to say suspicious. David, go ahead.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
we
God.
It's a wire
right.
issue, maybe.
I am going. I swear to God, I'm writing a complaint, a Yelp report on this mic. But here we go. I want to say, why are we trying to integrate ourselves with the banking system? Screw the banks. We're trying to run away from them. Like I don't care if they get integrated. I don't want to see the Lightning Network, having a kumbaya session with the banks. This 2000 Satoshi's vision was to get away from the banks, to have peer-to-peer transactions. We're going back to the same con men that have held us upon decades and not allowed us to have an opportunity. So absolutely, I hope it fails. How about that? I hope we never get integrated. There you go.
All right.
There's the real answer.
I love it. I love it. So maybe it isn't his favorite payment method and how he buys everything every day. All right, let's talk about the New York Stock Exchange going down. They had what they called a technical issue, led to dozens of stocks being frozen. These aren't just penny caps, as now we see on the bottom part of Seeking Alpha in the third paragraph. No, Morgan Stanley, Verizon, AT&T, Nike, the Golden Arches, even McDonald's were all affected. All of the companies impacted. They have resumed trading, but the pre-hours trading is completely shut down. In another statement, they said they're still investigating the issue with the opening auctions. And not only that, this comes on the heels of other outages happening across the country. We had the huge issue with our FAA, all the flights being grounded. And then a day later, same thing happened in Canada. 2 weeks before that, it was happening in Philippines. And they halted nearly 1,200 flights over that computer outage. Now, David, do you think that there's anything just amiss here with maybe a hack, maybe ransomware, maybe some malware? Or is this just a run-of-the-mill technical issue? We've all been there. It happens.
Okay, I'm having a technical issue with my mic.
It happens.
But there is goddamn no way there is any technical difficulties or issues that are occurring with these current timelines. This is all set up. And I know, David, you're such a conspiracy theorist. Oh, David, you're such a no. This is how they go about doing things, so they can implement things quietly in the background, have you focus here, but they're doing things over here. I don't believe it for 1 second that this was some sort of technical issue. Somebody pulled the wire, coding wasn't right. Absolutely not. D, I am sorry. And I wish I could throw some F-bombs, but I respect the channel and I want you guys to get full monetization.
Do you think there's a connection, or is it purely coincidence with the FAA flights and what we've seen with the stock exchange?
There's a super connection.
I would assume the same. I'm thinking the same. Let us know in the chat right now. Put a Y, put an N. Do you think it's connected? Yes or no? Just let us know. Personally, I'm leaning towards connected. Sin City Crypto, are you also leaning towards being connected here? Follow-up question, can Bitcoin fix this? Can blockchain technology fix this?
Two completely different markets. And so, on one end you have stocks. Everyone likes to liken stocks to crypto. And, a lot of it comes from the early creation of the exchanges. When the exchanges were created, especially Brian Armstrong with Coinbase, he wanted it to seem familiar to stock traders, and we have what we have now. Not to say that it's a good or bad thing, but it is what it is. It's pretty similar. But however, the assets that trade are not likened to commodities because they do not represent ownership in a company. Now, some people do speculate on the price in the same way they do with stocks, but at the end of the day, this is technology that's going to change the future, and these are utility tokens, right? I mean, you use Ethereum to pay for gas. You're going to use it to facilitate transactions on the network, and you're also going to use it to secure the network and to make it move forward. Now, that's where that differs. Now, what's going on, the fraud in Wall Street, man, the fraud, the history there goes deep, man. There's I mean, these securities laws have been put in place that we keep hearing about. These are all put in place from the fraud that has happened over the years in the stock exchange. This is something that we can address naturally with our own markets, with cryptocurrency, and with decentralization, and then having DAOs and making sure that one government, one company doesn't have too much power. Now, right now, we are in the early days of adoption. So, right now we're seeing it in the form of altcoins, but Bitcoin is a great example of how decentralization removes intermediaries. And it's never going to be free of whale manipulation as far as price action. But as this market keeps moving forward, that becomes less and less of a factor. And, if you're to forecast out 10, 20 years from now, when nation states are holding the Bitcoin on the treasury assets, the price fluctuations are going to be less impactful, and it's going to be less relevant. And you can say the same thing when it comes to these altcoins and this infrastructure that we're building now. These smart contracts and these layer ones will replace things in the future. And when they have the market adoption that iPhones and Samsung and televisions and the internet and the Googles and all those top companies that we're familiar with, when blockchain names are intermingled with those, and they have the user base there, the market manipulation is not going to be quite so great. So we're building our own market. Forget the New York Stock Exchange. Right now, that is stocks that trade here in the U.S. and a handful of other countries. We oust everybody else from inclusion into the broader markets, and now we have a tool that anybody in any country, as long as you have access to the internet, you can participate. And if it's something that you identify has real value as far as technology and supplanting things, you can buy into it now. And you don't have to be an accredited investor from a wealthy country to do that. And so I know I kind of went off on the rails there, but you know what? Stock exchange, it's just another example of what we're leaving to where we're going, at least in the crypto space.
An open network available to everybody, except New York residents. Sorry about you guys. All right, Kelly, last question here. I do want to know if you think it's connected to the FAA groundings, but if it was a hack, if it was ransomware, could they be forthcoming about that and be honest about that? Why or why not?
Well, I think it goes back. It's like a giant Game of Thrones. Same thing. What we need to get onto this level of honesty and transparency. And if you really think about it, that's the core principle that blockchain and Bitcoin has been, built on from the start. Not every protocol has really lived up to that. And we see over 25 something thousand or more cryptocurrency blockchains that are out there. In reality, I only really consider maybe 200, and of those 200, maybe 50 of them will be around in still 7 years or something like that, because a lot of these things are going to be just fall into hacks, fall into issues, get absorbed by other companies. But when we look at the transparency of it, that's the reason why the government, whether it's US or other foreign governments, that's why they don't want to really integrate this kind of stuff, because I can see this being utilized in Congress. I can see it using something like ICP or Phantom or AVAX for the underpinning of actually running the stock exchange on. So everything is what's the word I'm looking for? Transparent. You can see what's happening. You can see if there's power outages. You can see if it's connected. You can see all the decisions that's being made. All of this, if it is inclusive, we need to make this inclusive of everything from government to the everyday citizen. And the more people that use it, the more government types of individuals and politicians that start to support this sort of integration, we will actually see a more trust-based, at least as close to trust-based government organizations, the more they integrate blockchain, because the more they integrate it, the more transparent all the activity that happens behind those closed doors have to be, because it's interacted and proven on a blockchain. So I do think it's all connected. I think it's the digital age is outpacing this slow, methodical political tack that used to be able to pull the wool over people's eyes. And the digital age is now outrunning that, especially with blockchain and social media. And I think the day is coming very soon that we are going to see a massive shift in the way society operates because of blockchain.
I'll push back on one thing. I don't think it's very soon. I think it would be utopian. I would love, just as an example, say a random tax issue, $17 million on the road. Can you imagine seeing where, okay, this construction company got this much money, this asphalt company got this much money, they were paid this much money to paint the lines. And then you might be able to see something like, wait, we paid this porta potty company owned by the mayor's brother how much money? And so, yeah, I think it would open up our eyes to a lot of the corruption that we see on the small scale, at least, and then eventually broaden it out on the federal level. But I think we start with local governments, and that would be hugely bullish for your taxpayer money and it being spent correctly. Can you imagine that, your taxpayer money being spent efficiently? It's almost unfathomable, but blockchain could maybe take us to that point. All right, that is all we have time for. I feel like David was sandbagged by the microphone issue. I think he may have passed Sin City Crypto if it weren't for that, but Sin City Crypto came in and like suave and debonair, just like a shirt, and end up taking it home. No pun intended. So Sin City Crypto, feel free, leave us with some parting thoughts.
All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to send a thank you to DZ, Round Blockchain Hidden Network. Thanks for hosting us. Go make sure you guys go subscribe to everyone's channel here, David and everyone here. So, thank you guys. I've been eyeballing Filecoin. That was my my pick today. So way off of its all-time high. So if you want a little nugget of insight on a project that I like, top 30 project. Yeah, really far off its all-time high. I think it's going to rebound pretty well.
All right. And you know what? On that note, I bought Dust today. Retraced from 180 to 120. Might as well share it. You know, it was a move I saw all-time high, $6. But today's episode brought to you by presend.io. You could send crypto securely, and bcvault.com. You can store your crypto securely. If you could crack it, you actually get a free Bitcoin. So that's all we got time for today, Bit Squad. Until next time, make sure you hit that like button. That's all we got. Easy out.